The morning light filtered softly through the thin curtains of the kitchen window, spilling golden hues across the old oak table that had been in my family for years. It was a Saturday, one of those rare mornings where the world felt unhurried, where the ticking of the clock and the faint rustle of trees outside seemed to breathe life into the home. I had no idea when I went to bed the night before that my son, Ethan, was quietly planning something that would change everything for both of us. Life hadn't been easy for me. After Ethan's father, Daniel, and I divorced 3 years ago, I found myself stepping into a role I never imagined I would be in, a single mother trying to juggle bills, housework, and the emotional strain of raising a child mostly on my own. Daniel still visited Ethan and loved him dearly, but most of the daily struggles fell onto my shoulders. Ethan was only 9 when everything changed, and though I did my best to shield him from the worst of it, children are far more perceptive than we think. That Saturday began like any other. I stirred in bed, slowly blinking away the haze of sleep, when a faint clatter reached my ears. At first, I thought it might be the neighbor's dog knocking something over, but as I sat up, I heard the unmistakable sound of dishes clinking and the faint, sizzling crackle of something cooking. My heart skipped. Had I left the stove on? Panic rushed through me, and I quickly slipped into my robe and hurried down the hall. The smell hit me before I even entered the kitchen, a mix of scrambled eggs, slightly burnt toast, and orange juice that smelled a little too freshly squeezed, as if someone had wrestled oranges within an inch of their lives. And then I saw him. There stood Ethan, his sandy blonde hair sticking up in every direction like he had wrestled a pillow all night. He was standing on his tiptoes, spatula in one hand, concentrating fiercely on a frying pan that was just a little too big for him. The sight was so endearing that I almost forgot my fear. "Ethan," I exclaimed, my voice sharper than I intended, a mother's instinct kicking in. "What are you doing?" He startled, nearly dropping the spatula, then turned toward me with wide blue eyes.
"Mom."
"Don't be mad. I wanted to make you breakfast. It's a surprise." I froze, my heart melting at his words. "Breakfast? For me?" He nodded, his little chest puffing out with pride.
"Yeah."
"You always make me breakfast and you look tired all the time. I thought maybe I could take care of you today." My throat tightened and tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. This was the kind of simple act of love that reached deeper than anything grand ever could. I walked slowly toward him, trying not to scare him into thinking he had done something wrong. "Well," I said softly, kneeling beside him, "that's the sweetest surprise I've ever had. But let's make sure you don't burn the eggs, okay?" He laughed, the sound of it bubbling up like sunshine. "They're a little crispy, but that's how I like them." Together, we finished the breakfast. He proudly carried the plates to the table, scrambled eggs, toast that was dark around the edges, and 2 glasses of orange juice with pulp floating heavily at the top. He had even placed a single daisy from our backyard into a glass jar in the center of the table. My heart swelled. We sat down, and I raised my glass. "To my chef," I said, clinking it gently against his. "This is the best breakfast I've ever had." He grinned, shoveling eggs into his mouth with the kind of satisfaction only a child can feel. For a few minutes, we ate in silence, and I thought that was the end of the surprise. But then Ethan set down his fork and looked at me with an expression far too serious for his age. "Mom," he said quietly, "can I tell you something?" The way he asked made me sit straighter. "Of course, sweetheart. You can tell me anything." He twisted his hands together nervously, his small fingers fidgeting. "I know things have been hard for you. I hear you sometimes at night when you think I'm asleep. You cry. I know you're worried about money, and I know you miss Dad, even though you don't say it." My heart clenched. I tried so hard to hide my struggles from him, to keep my pain behind closed doors, but here he was, showing me just how deeply children can see. "I don't want you to be sad anymore," he whispered. "So, I've been thinking maybe we could do something different. Maybe we could change things. Like, maybe I can help." I blinked at him, unsure of what he meant. "Help? Honey, you already help me so much." He shook his head. "No, I mean really help. I saw this thing at school about kids starting little businesses. like lemonade stands or selling crafts. I thought maybe we could do something like that together. We could earn money, and it would make you smile more. Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. Here was my son, just 10 years old now, offering to shoulder responsibilities no child should ever have to worry about. But at the same time, I saw the determination in his eyes, the kind of love that inspires real change. "Ethan," I whispered, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand, "you don't need to worry about money. That's my job. Your job is to be a kid, to play and learn and grow." "But maybe we could do it together," he said softly. "Not just for money. For fun. So we can spend more time together. You're always working or tired. I just want to be with you." That broke me in the best possible way. I pulled him into my arms, holding him tightly as the warmth of his little body pressed against mine. "You just changed my whole world," I whispered into his hair. From that day on, something shifted. Ethan's words weren't just a child's passing thought. They were the spark that ignited a change in both of us. We did start something together, small at first. On weekends, we baked cookies and sold them at the local farmer's market. Ethan loved decorating them with colorful icing, and soon people began coming back just to see his designs. What began as a child's idea slowly grew into something real, something beautiful. But more than the money, it gave us time. Time to laugh together in the kitchen, time to talk while we mixed dough, or set up our little stand. And during those moments, I noticed that my worries didn't weigh quite as heavily on me anymore. Months passed, and our bond only grew stronger. Ethan's school even invited us to share our story with other families, encouraging them to find ways to spend meaningful time together. When he stood on stage, holding the microphone with his small hands and speaking proudly about our cookie business, I knew he wasn't just growing into a kind young man, he was teaching me how to live again. The day he surprised me with breakfast was the day he reminded me of something I had forgotten, that even in the hardest times, love has the power to transform everything. His words changed me, lifted me, and showed me that happiness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from connection, from love, and from the courage to keep moving forward together. And so, whenever I look back on that morning with the burnt toast, pulpy orange juice, and slightly crispy eggs, I don't see a messy breakfast. I see the moment my son saved me without even realizing it. Because sometimes the biggest changes in life don't come from grand gestures or perfect plans. They come from small hands holding yours across a breakfast table, whispering words that shift your heart forever.